Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we take a whole stack of information, pull out the key insights, and basically give you that shortcut to being genuinely clued in. Today, we are diving into a really fascinating collection of trending posts straight from the X platform. This is part of our daily vibe casting.
Hmm. Yeah, we're looking at about 11 key posts from July 12th and 13th, 2025. It's, a real snapshot of what's buzzing right now, global stuff, markets, tech, even some cultural bits you might not expect.
Exactly. And what's really interesting is how these posts, they seem kind of random at first, but when you put them together, they offer some valuable insights into what's happening and maybe more importantly, the feeling behind those online conversations. We're not just going to read them out. We want to unpack the context, the why behind them, basically help you figure out what actually matters in all this noise. Okay, let's do it. Let's unpack this, kicking off with some pretty big moves in global economics and politics. First one's a major policy announcement. This is from @WatcherGuru, and it's short and sharp. Just IN. President Trump announces 30% tariffs on the European Union and Mexico. And there's a link.
Right. So this isn't coming out of nowhere exactly. It's definitely an escalation. Remember those 25% tariffs on Canada and Mexico back in February 2025? This could be linked to ongoing stuff like border security concerns, maybe trade deficits, too. They were over $1 trillion recently, according to White House data. It's a big strategic move.
A big move, yeah. So what does that actually mean? Like, what are the ripple effects we should be watching for in the global economy?
Well, the impact could be pretty significant, potentially quite quickly. Some analyses, like from Bruegel.org, they suggest the EU might be able to handle a 30% hit, through fiscal policy, finding other trade partners. But certain countries, Germany, for example, could see a noticeable hit to their GDP, maybe like 0.4%. That highlights specific vulnerabilities. And it definitely strains that USMCA agreement, the U.S.-Mexico-Canada deal. We're talking nearly $840 billion in U.S.-Mexico trade just last year. Disrupting that, it could really mess with supply chains in sectors like automotive, electronics, things that are deeply integrated. Okay. So from those big international trade moves, let's pivot. Let's go to Argentina for a domestic economic experiment that's, it's producing some really eye-opening results. This post is from @EndWokeness. Milei ended rent freezes in Argentina. Mortgage costs went down by 30%. Rent prices went down by 26%. Housing supply is up 212%. Funny how that works. Yeah, this one definitely got people talking. It highlights a pretty radical policy shift. Milei basically reversed this 2020 rental law. That law had really restricted landlords and, it reduced housing availability quite a lot. And the results they're citing are, they're striking. A 30% drop in mortgage costs, 26% down on rent, and this massive 212% increase in housing supply. Just in Buenos Aires, supply apparently jumped nearly 200% since December 2024. That's according to the Real Estate College's stats people.
Wow. That sounds like, it seems like a pretty powerful real-world test of a specific economic theory, doesn't it? Is that fair to say?
Oh, absolutely. It lines up almost perfectly with economic theory from places like the Cato Institute, the libertarian think tank. They argue price controls, like rent freezes, often make shortages worse. And there's peer-reviewed research, too. A study in the Journal of Urban Economics showed rent control can cut supply by up to 15%. Now, Argentina's wider economy is showing some rebound signs growth up in April, projected inflation dropping. But, and this is important, rising living costs from subsidy cuts. That's the other side of the coin. The trade-off people are debating. It's not simple.
Right. Staying on economics, but with a definite tech angle. This one's a big cryptic. It's from @Saylor, Michael Saylor. It just says, the future is orange, and there's an image.
Yeah, Michael Saylor, the big Bitcoin advocate. The future is orange. That's crypto speak. It references being orange-pilled, which is slang in the Bitcoin community.
Yeah.
It basically signifies this transformative belief in Bitcoin's fundamental value. His company, MicroStrategy, holds something like $61 billion in Bitcoin now. It's a huge bet. And the image itself, the orange dress, the setting, it might even have a subtle nod to Vaishnavism's spiritual symbolism, where orange means devotion. It hints at a really deep conviction.
Okay, so beyond the crypto community, how does this connect, or how might he want it to connect to what's happening right now for for you listening?
Well, the timing is interesting. You see posts like this alongside news about, say, delays in those U.S. tariffs we just talked about, reported by NPR.
Yeah.
It could be Saylor subtly suggesting, hey, look at all this traditional financial instability.
Yeah.
Maybe Bitcoin is the real hedge here. It fits perfectly with his long-running message. Crypto isn't just an asset. It's a whole different system.
Got it. Okay, last one in this segment. A really powerful statement coming out of pop culture, actually. This is shared by @PopBase. It says, Olivia Rodrigo speaks out in support of Palestine in new Instagram story. It is horrific and completely unacceptable. To give up on them is to give up on our shared humanity.
Yeah, Olivia Rodrigo, using her platform here, she's highlighting the humanitarian crisis in Gaza, referencing reports like from UNICEF back in June 2023 that talked about the impact of months of bombardment mass displacement, a huge mental health crisis, especially for children, over 1 million kids affected. And she's not just talking. Her story directly asks for donations. It's direct advocacy.
That is a powerful stance. I wonder, though, we've seen celebrities speak out before. Does this kind of thing, does it break through? Especially considering how platforms sometimes handle sensitive topics.
That's a really important question. We know, for instance, from an internal meta study back in 2021, that Instagram's algorithms apparently suppressed pro-Palestinian content during the conflict then. Visibility for related hashtags dropped by up to 50%. So Rodrigo's statement now, especially after recent reports like from the BBC about casualties in Deir al-Balah, it really underscores the urgency. And perhaps it's also a challenge to that potential platform bias, trying to push the message through. Regardless, it shows how cultural figures are getting involved in these really tough global issues.
Okay, let's shift gears. This is where things get, well, really interesting, I think. We're moving into tech and innovation. First up, straight from the horse's mouth, at Tesla just posted a link. That's it. And the link goes to details about their new software update, 2025.26.
Right, and this is a big deal because this update brings Grok, that's the AI from xAI, Elon Musk's other company, into Tesla cars. It's a beta feature in the US, needs premium connectivity or Wi-Fi. This marks a really significant convergence, Musk's AI work at xAI, which started in 2023 aiming to speed up scientific discovery, is now literally inside his cars. It's bringing those worlds together.
And it's not just the AI, is it? There are some other features in there, some quite cool ones by the sound of it.
Exactly. Besides Grok, there's something called Light Sync. This makes the car's accent, lights, pulse, or change with your music, which sounds fun, but there's actually research behind it. Like a study in the Journal of Consumer Research found synchronized audiovisual stuff increased engagement by about 15%. So it makes the cabin feel more immersive. That's for the newer Model 3, Y, the 2026 S and X, and Cybertruck. Oh, and the dashcam viewer got an update too. You can zoom now, control playback speed. That seems practical. Matches up with an IIHS study saying dashcam footage helps resolve like 70% of traffic disputes. So a mix of fun and safety features.
Right. And speaking of Elon Musk, his unique management or innovation philosophy is also trending. Here's another post, this time from at Elon Musk himself. Just one word, yes. And it's referencing a clip apparently from Tesla's 2022 AI Day.
Yeah, that yes refers to a specific point Musk was making in that clip. He was criticizing companies he calls honey traps for engineers.
Yeah.
Places that, in his view, pay well, offer comfort, but ultimately stifle real innovation and output. He contrasts that sharply with the environment at Tesla and SpaceX, demanding high pressure, but, according to him, necessary to really maximize engineering talent and get big things done.
Honey traps, in the corporate sense. That's quite a provocative term. What's the core idea there?
It really is provocative. The idea, metaphorically, is that these companies lure top engineers with great pay, benefits, maybe cool offices, but then they don't actually push them or utilize their full potential. They get comfortable, maybe complacent. It's the polar opposite of the culture described by some former employees at Tesla or SpaceX. Long hours, intense pressure. Musk essentially argues that intensity, that pressure, is required for breakthroughs. Comfort, he implies, is the enemy of innovation. It's a pretty stark view.
Definitely a distinct perspective. Okay, rounding out tech, one more related to AI, specifically AI humor. This is from at CB Doge designer. The post says, Grok is the funniest AI on the internet. Grok 4 other AIs, and there's an image link probably showing a comparison or an example.
All right, so Doge designer is making a bold claim here. Grok 4 is funnier than other AIs. Now, whether that's objectively true is debatable, but it does tie into xAI's recent progress. Their website talks about Grok 3 being their most advanced model yet, blending better reasoning with lots of pre-training knowledge. It's plausible that improved reasoning could, maybe, translate into better humor generation as well. They're clearly aiming for personality.
Which raises that big question. Can AI actually be funny? I mean, genuinely funny, like a human? And what does that even mean for how we interact with these things?
That's the $1 million or maybe $1 billion question. People are actually studying this. There was a PLOS One study looking at AI jokes versus human jokes, trying to figure out the quality. The results are kind of mixed, as you'd expect, but it shows there's real interest in AI's creative abilities, like humor. Of course, this is happening alongside other AI developments, some quite concerning, like those AI voice cloning scams WillowX reported on. It just shows how sophisticated these tools are getting, and their impact goes way beyond just telling jokes. It makes you think, right?
It really does. Okay, let's pivot again. Fascinating stuff on culture, human behavior, what's kind of bubbling up in public sentiment. First, at NFL Dov Kleiman posts simply, make it make sense. And there's an image attached, clearly highlighting the whole debate around Native American imagery in sports mascots and names.
Yeah, and the image probably points out the inconsistency, which is what Kleiman seems to be getting at. You've got teams like the Kansas City Chiefs or Florida State Seminoles keeping their names and imagery, often citing tribal permission or specific historical links. But then you have others, like the Cleveland Indians changing to the Guardians in 2018, or the Washington Redskins becoming the Commanders in 2020, precisely because the names and imagery were seen as racially insensitive by many. And there's data backing that feeling. A University of Michigan study back in 2005 found like 67% of Native Americans surveyed found mascots like Chief Wahoo offensive. So it's complex.
It is complex. How did we get here? How has this debate sort of evolved over the years to these different outcomes for different teams?
Well, it's been a long evolution. The Chiefs logo, for example, wasn't always an arrowhead. It used to be something else entirely back in the 60s. The Redskins name, adopted way back in 1933, seems more like a branding decision at the time, not really a tribute. There are even questions about the coach's heritage then. More recently, major organizations like the American Psychological Association reviewed studies in 2016 and linked these mascots to negative stereotypes and potentially harming the self-esteem of indigenous youth. That led leagues like the NFL and MLB to tighten their guidelines. But as we see, there's still resistance and variation regionally. It's tradition versus changing social views.
Okay, moving to something maybe a bit more relatable day to day, a humorous take on habits. This is from @SigsMake. How cigarettes look at me after 3 beers followed by an image looks like a serene beach, maybe.
Yeah, that post perfectly captures that feeling, right? The almost seductive pull of a cigarette after you've had a few drinks. And it's not just a feeling. There's science there. A study in nicotine and tobacco research back in 2014 found alcohol actually increases smoking urges by about 30%. It seems to enhance the brain's reward sensitivity, making that cigarette seem extra appealing.
It's funny, but it also points to something deeper, doesn't it? This weird cultural endurance of smoking, even though everyone knows the health risks are huge. Why does that pull persist so strongly for some?
It's a real paradox. You've got the WHO saying 8 million deaths a year from tobacco,
Yeah.
yet smoking still has this, nostalgic or rebellious vibe in certain social situations, especially linked with alcohol. Some sociologists talk about how it retains this charm. And historically, tobacco had ritualistic uses long before cigarettes. Jordan Goodman wrote about a culture of dependence, how these ancient rituals evolved into modern social habits. So it's more complex than just saying it's a health issue. There are deep social and historical roots, too.
Fascinating. Okay, another one capturing universal human behavior, this one from the airport. From @ClownWorld, just the laughing emoji, and a link. The post is clearly poking fun at that thing everyone does standing up the second the plane lands, even before the gate's connected.
Yeah, it's exaggerating for comedic effect, suggesting it saves like 1.7 seconds on a 4-hour flight or something trivial. You see this rocked all the time online, like that Reddit thread with tons of upvotes. But interestingly, research from the Journal of Travel Research suggests it might not just be impatience. They found post-flight standing is often driven by physical discomfort, like 68% of tall passengers reported leg or back pain. So wanting to stand up makes practical sense for many. It's not just about being first off.
That makes sense. Modern air travel isn't exactly known for its comfort levels, is it?
Not at all. Yeah, and if you look back historically, think about flying in the 1950s. The Airline Passenger Experience Association notes they often had spacious cabins, full meals. It's a world away from today's often cramped seats. So maybe that rush to get off now is partly fueled by just wanting to escape the less comfortable conditions.
Right. Okay, finally, let's tie some of these threads together. A post here from @MattVanswall that seems to capture a broad feeling right now. He writes, I don't know about all of you, but literally nothing is making sense right now. Nothing at all.
Yeah, that tweet seems to tap into a really widespread feeling, a kind of confusion or disorientation. People feel like they're getting conflicting stories all the time. You could maybe link this sentiment to recent events like Remember the DOJ and FBI findings around July 7th that debunked the whole Epstein client list conspiracy, that challenged years of online speculation from influencers and really shifted how people thought about it. It shakes public trust when narratives collapse like that.
That feeling. Nothing is making sense. It really does resonate. Why do you think so many people feel that way right now? What's driving it?
It's a huge question. The timing often seems to coincide with periods of high information flow, or maybe disinformation flow. A 2023 study in the Journal of Communication found that social media misinformation tends to spike, like by 35% during big political events. So this feeling of frustration, of things not making sense, might stem from just being flooded with unverified claims, conflicting reports. And historically, this isn't entirely new. Think about events like the Whitlam dismissal in Australia back in '75, linked to alleged deep state stuff. These moments where power seems opaque or hidden tend to fuel public disorientation. It's a recurring pattern, maybe amplified now by social media.
Wow, what a deep dive that was. We went from presidential tariffs impacting global trade to economic experiments down in Argentina, celebrity advocacy, the quirks of AI humor in your car, then through cultural debates on sports teams, our own funny habits with cigarettes or on airplanes, and landing on this very real feeling that, yeah, maybe things just don't quite add up right now.
It really is fascinating when you take these trending topics, these daily vibes, and look just a little deeper. You start seeing these underlying currents: global economics, tech acceleration, complex human behaviors, societal shifts. It's all interconnected. Hopefully this dive helps you feel not just, up to date, but maybe understand some of those undercurrents a bit better.
So what's the takeaway for you? As you're scrolling through your own feed later today, maybe think about how this rapid-fire stream of trending stuff shapes what we all perceive, how it influences debates from massive policy down to cultural norms, and what's your role in navigating that flow, discerning what's signal and what's noise, especially when the topics range so wildly from terrorists to AI jokes. Keep an eye on those dynamics in your own digital world. There's always more to unpack just beneath the surface.